everybody, it's me, Crafting Journey, aka Rebecca. I'm bringing you coverage of live trials, currently covering the trial of Lori Vallow Daybell on Friday. They only were there for half a day, so we have a little bit to talk about, but not a lot. But stay tuned because it's Murdaugh Monday, and there is news on the South Carolina Murdaugh front. Yeah, so I don't know, which should I do first? Oh, I should show you what I did this weekend. You like my cow? He's right at the boob. His snout. Burr, 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 burr. I know, I'm weird. Okay. I like my cow. Also like my coffee. I did not work on the diamond painting at all this weekend. I gridded my fabric for my cross stitch. Let me show you. Because you have to. You kind of sort of have to. So I made this grid, 10 by 10 squares, so that'll make the pattern much easier. That took a little bit of time. And I made this. This is part of a blanket. I'm doing 1 or 2 squares every month. But yesterday I printed off the rest of the squares for this Grafghan blanket for the rest of the year. And there are so many choices for like October and December. And I may be doing more than one each month because they're super fun. They take about a day and a half to do. I mean, working exclusively on that for a day and a half. I would say roughly 10 to 12 hours per square, I think. This is the one I did for May. It's upside down. Here we go. They're gnomes. Each month is a different gnome. But and bonus gnome. My birthday's in December, and they happen to, at the end of the year, release a birthday gnome. So I'm going to be putting a birthday gnome. It's going to be a big old blanket, I got to tell you. I think this is square number 7 or 6 that I've done. Yeah, so that's what I did this weekend. Very little diamond painting, but I am doing it now because I do want to get this one finished and move on to the Secret Garden one that I'm doing. Yes, so let's start out with Vallow Daybell. Why not? And then we'll get to Murdaugh. So Lori Vallow Daybell, the trial was half a day on Friday. They had Doug Hart on the stand. He's an FBI case agent. Now, not the lead agent for the entire case, but the lead FBI guy who was working with the local police during this missing persons / murder investigation. Lori's accused of murdering her adopted son, JJ Vallow, and her daughter, 17-year-old Tylee Ryan. She's also accused, in this case, of the murder or conspiracy to commit the murder of Tammy Daybell, her current husband's former wife, who passed away mysteriously. Yep. Anyway, so Doug Hart, the previous day, had indicated he had a summary, and what it is that it's just a PowerPoint. What he did was he took everything on Lori's iCloud accounts, and she had 2 iCloud accounts. One called Lori for Style, which she created in December of 2020, and there was multiple things that he had to go through on that iCloud. And then he had to go through the iCloud called Lolly Time that she started in October 2018 and continued through November of 2019. Now, there's a lot of stuff on these iCloud drives. Pictures, videos, text messages, lots and lots and lots of stuff that this guy had to go through. So what he did on the PowerPoint is that he just there were over 4,500 text messages, that he had to go through. So he took like the most relevant to the case and put them together on a PowerPoint. So the defense the day before had objected to the jury seeing this PowerPoint presentation because it contained conclusory statements like the day Lori killed Tylee and JJ. And so the judge had said, no, it's not coming in its current format. If you can sanitize it, clean it up, then maybe I'll allow it. So on Friday, as I predicted, the prosecution stayed up during the night and sanitized the PowerPoint presentation. So it was allowed to come in the revised format. and it's lengthy, and they only just scratched the surface, trying to get some of these statements in on Friday. Some were a little salacious, I will say, but here's what I plan to do. They're going to really do a deep dive into it starting today. This guy will probably be on the stand all day today, maybe even part of tomorrow, going through this, huge PowerPoint presentation that he put together with all these relevant text message and timeline. And so I think we'll wait till tomorrow to talk. I'm going to give you clips of some of these statements or these texts that went back and forth between Lori and Chad. I mean, like, hey, you took care of me in the shower this morning. Yeah, stay tuned for tomorrow. You're going to want to listen to that one outside the presence of minors, I would think. Mm-hmm. Or with your headphones on. Put your headphones on. This coffee is so good today. My cup says, there's nothing better than a good friend except a good friend with chocolate. I agree. You got that, Mickey? A good friend with chocolate. Chocolate. All right, we're going to go over to Murdoch. We're going to go to South Carolina. We're going to spend a little time in South Carolina this morning. First of all, I've been talking about the case of Gerard Price. Gerard Price is a man who was convicted of murdering Carl Smalls in a shooting 2003. He was gunned down in a Columbia nightclub. Now, Gerard was found guilty and was sentenced to 35 years in jail. However, in a recent secret deal between his attorney, what's his name? Oh, Todd Rutherford, who's a state legislator, he and the solicitor of the county where this occurred and Judge Casey Manning got into a backroom little deal where, based on nothing but hearsay about how he saved some corrections officer's life with nothing to back it up, no note from the corrections people indicating that, yes, this actually did happen. And Judge Casey Manning, on his last day on the bench, signed an order without a motion for this order, just based on his backroom conversations, signed an order to release Gerard Price from prison after only serving 15 years. And South Carolina has several laws. First of all, if you're going to release someone, you have to notify the victims and give them a chance to be heard before you issue an order releasing someone. That was not done. The victims were not given an opportunity to express their thoughts about his release. They were just notified the day he was released. Hey, he's good. He's out of here. So Gerard Price is released in mid-March, this past mid-March. We know he obtained a South Carolina driver's license in early April. We don't know where he is right now. But here's what happened in the meantime. Now that it's come to light that there was this backroom deal and this prisoner was released, the Attorney General for the state of South Carolina went before the Supreme Court of South Carolina and asked that this secretive order be vacated. And he said, based upon the fact that, they violated the victims' rights, they never had the chief judge sign off on that order, which that's another violation. There's so many things wrong with the way this guy was released. It's not even funny. And the Supreme Court indicated many times, we are very disturbed by all of this. So after they heard argument from the Attorney General and Todd Rutherford for the defendant, Gerard Price, they issued an order to vacate Judge Casey Manning's order, and ordered that Gerard Price be sent back to prison. However, nobody knows where he is. And there was a press conference held by Todd Rutherford, the legislator that represents Gerard Price, asking him to please turn himself in, and then apologizing to him, saying how it wasn't fair that, he has to go back to prison, but that's, Supreme Court has vacated the order and you need to go back to prison. Well, good luck finding this guy. He is supposedly the head of this gang in South Carolina, this big gang. So I doubt you're going to find him. He's probably being hidden very well. Okay, so that's Gerard Price. And if you see him, call the police, because very dangerous man. Yes. There's way more to that story, but just suffice it to say that, you know, he's on the run now. I'm so glad that the Supreme Court vacated that illegal order and ordered him back to prison, because, you know, if you're going to release him based on the fact that he saved someone's life in a corrections facility, you know, corrections officer's life, do it the right way. You have a hearing, you let the victims come, you have the chief judge sign off of it, and then you put all your evidence in front of the judge. If it's hearsay, obviously it's not going to come in, so you better get some firsthand knowledge of what these things portend to be true. In other words, that you saved these people's lives, other than affidavits of somebody heard somebody else say that you saved a life. Yeah. And Todd Rutherford, he knows this. He knows that how weak that is, that basis for his release. He knows that. But he argues that now Gerard Price, his life is in danger. He's going to go back into that prison system, and if he gets killed or injured because he helped the corrections officers and he identified someone that had broke out of prison, he ratted him out, that his life is going to be in danger, and that the corrections facility and the government who overturned this order is going to be liable. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. But I don't know if he's going to go back to prison. First, you got to find him. All right, then, oh my gosh. Dick Carpotlian and Jim Griffin, that are representing Alex Murdaugh, they have moved. At one point before the trial of Alex Murdaugh for the murders of his wife Maggie and son Paul, there was a receivership set up to find out where all Alex Murdaugh assets were. One of his assets was a $2 million retirement fund. So Alex Murdaugh's attorneys, Jim Griffin and Dick Carpotlian, went before the judge before the trial and said, he's got this 401k, if you agree to allow him to, because it's not touchable, really. He can make it touchable. And what he wanted to do was he wanted the courts to go ahead and say, yes, he can cash in his 401k. And they did. They allowed him to cash in that $2 million 401k, but he had to pay taxes and penalties on that money. But Jim Griffin and Dick Carpotlian wanted part of that money. They asked the judge, here, can you give us $600,000 of that money so we can hire experts in the case of Maggie and Paul and handle the appeal? And then you can keep the remainder. The balance would have been $425,000, and that would go into the receivership to pay for creditors of Alex Murdaugh, including the victims that he's, lost, that he owes money to along the way. So last week, Jim and Dick went back before the court asking for more money. Now they want another $160,000 to cover their appeal. Now they said that in this motion for this appeal, in this motion to cover the costs of handling the appeal, they argue that if they're not granted this $160,000 out of the receivership money, the victim's money, then Alex is going to be forced to have a public defender. And wouldn't that be a shame for the taxpayers to have to pay for his legal defense when he has assets that will cover it? But you're taking those assets from the victims that he owes money to. You agreed to handle this case for $600,000, and now you're coming back for more money. Yeah, I don't think so. I don't know how that ruling's going to go down, but it doesn't sit real well with me. So, so on August 14th of this year, the boat crash is set for trial. Now, the boat crash happened in 2019. That's where Paul Murdaugh, one of the people that Alex Murdaugh murdered, his son Paul, was driving a boat with 5 other teenagers. They coming back from an oyster roast. Prior to the oyster roast, Paul had stopped at a gas station and bought alcohol with his brother's fake ID at a Parker's convenience store. Now, Parker's is a defendant in this litigation. They're all that's left in this trial other than Alex Murdaugh, who's in jail with no money. So Parker is where the money is right now, and they're asking to get out of this trial. They're arguing that the cashier that sold Paul the beer didn't have any knowledge that this was a fake ID, and that she didn't knowingly sell him the beer. She didn't know he was a minor, even though she had actually looked at the ID he was using, which he was using his brother Buster Murdaugh's ID. Buster's 6 foot something, and Paul is 5'7". All you would have to do is look and see that very different. Hey, you're not 6 foot something tall. Is this really your ID? Anyway, the standard for the law that governs this issue doesn't say you have to knowingly do it. You just have had to have done it because they're minors. You don't have, the fact that whether you knew he was a minor or not is irrelevant. You sold beer to this guy, and you didn't even follow your own procedures, which say you should scan the ID, you should read the ID, you should ask questions. She did scan the ID, but she didn't even look what she was scanning. So, anyhow, that is going to trial on August 14th, and the Parker people have moved to be what they've filed is a motion for summary judgment, which says, all things considered, we should not be in this case because the cashier did not knowingly sell him any beer. Then they also argue that the people at the oyster roast should have stopped him from driving the boat. That's really irrelevant, really, because no, that has nothing to do. No. We do know that Buster Murdaugh was part of the suit for giving his brother his ID. He did knowingly give his brother an ID. He made statements to the fact that he didn't like that his brother had his ID because he had to use his passport when he wanted to go buy liquor. So Buster settled out and sold really for his portion of his mother's estate in Moselle. So part of that Moselle sale of the property, a large part of that sale, the proceeds went to cover the boat crash settlement on behalf of Buster Murdaugh. So we're left with Parker's convenience store. Now I'm curious if law and crime is going to cover. It's going to be a civil trial, which means there will be a jury, but the standard is different, and you don't have prosecutors. You have a plaintiff, which is the Mallory Beach family and the other 2 women that were in that boat, and and Connor Cook, who has a different attorney. Those are the defendants, and then you have the plaintiff, which is going to be Alex Murdaugh, who's in jail, and Parker Convenience Store. So it's going to be an interesting trial if it does go forward. If we are able to see it live, I would like to cover that for you guys. It should be interesting. Okay, so there was one more thing going on with Murdaugh this past week. Alex's attorneys, Dick and Jim, filed some kind of document, and within this document, it acknowledges that Alex Murdaugh lied about the cause of death of Gloria Satterfield. Now, Gloria Satterfield, I think that was in 2015. In 2015, she is the housekeeper, or was the housekeeper, for Alex and Maggie Murdaugh. She worked out at Moselle. She goes out to Moselle. It's about 9 a.m. And we know from a phone call to 911 that Maggie Murdaugh made that she had fallen on the stairs in front of their house and was semi-conscious. According to Maggie Murdaugh, she was mumbling incoherently, but so was probably conscious but wasn't making any sense. Then during this phone call with 911, her son grabs the phone and he starts talking about that he was holding her up and she fell over again. Well, Alex has said all along that when this first happened, Maggie called him. He was at work. He said he came home. Paul testified in a deposition that his dad got home prior to EMS arriving to take care of Gloria Satterfield. And here's what Alex was telling the insurance companies during the early months of this lawsuit, and in order to get it settled. He told them that when he arrived there, she mumbled to him that the dogs had tripped him up. The other thing Alex did was tell his family and tell everybody else that the family believed that the dogs had tripped her up, that she had told the family this, and that's what they believed. Well, the family testified, no, she never said a word. She didn't talk. From the time she got into that hospital, for the next 3 weeks, the woman was in a coma. She didn't talk again, and she passed away from a severe head injury. So in this document filed by Alex Murdaugh's attorney, he admits that he lied, that she never told him that she was tripped up by the dogs, that he made that up. Big surprise, right? Big surprise. So what is that going to do for all those insurance? There's two insurance companies, Lloyd's of London and one other insurance company, that paid out on this settlement based on the fact that she was tripped up by dogs on the property of Alex Murdaugh. These were like homeowner policies. And so I don't know, are they going to go against the estate now? I don't know what's going to happen with all this. It's just so very confusing. So, but what a shame for the family members. They thought this was all settled and, they had their money finally. The insurance company, because the insurance companies paid out on this, and all that money went to Alex. So then the family members of Gloria Satterfield had to sue these insurance companies to get their money, because they said you should never have given that money to Alex, So they settled, they agreed, they've paid up. The Satterfield family has been more than compensated for the money they lost, plus some, because these insurance companies didn't really conduct a decent investigation of what really happened at the Moselle property. Now, there have been talks about exhuming the body of Gloria Satterfield to find out what the real cause of death was, or what could have caused that head injury. I don't know. Maybe she did just trip on the steps. Here's what, if she was, because Alex has said all along that she was there to pick up a paycheck, which makes her a guest on the property. Now, if she had been coming to work that day, she was arriving about 9 a.m., then it would be workers' compensation, not as much money. So was Alex lying about the cause so that he could get to where the money was, those homeowner policies? And now what's going to happen now that he's admitted that he lied about that? I don't know. All right. Let's talk about the calendar, the crime calendar. This is weekly stories for Monday, May 8th. 2023. The murder of Rebecca Wright. This is just going to be a multiple part story. This is part 1. Oh, it's not Wright, it's Witt. Rebecca Witt. Students Rebecca Witt. Now I'm going to say it wrong. Students of Rebecca Witt and Claudia Brenner were hiking the Appalachian Trail in Pennsylvania in May of 1988 when they encountered Stephen Roy Carr. The couple parked their car at Dead Woman's Hollow and set up camp near Birch Run Shelter on South Mountain in Mishaw State Forest for the night. On the morning of May 13th, Witt, believing she and Brenner were completely alone in the remote location, walked nude to Birch Run Shelter, where she met Carr for the first time. He asked for a cigarette. She said she didn't have one and returned to the camp to instruct Brenner to get dressed because they were not alone in the area. Unnerved by the encounter, Witt and Brenner decided to move campsites to a more private area. As they passed Birch Run Shelter, the women noticed Carr was still there and called out in passing, "See you later," expecting they would never see him again. Do, do, do. Part 2 tomorrow. Oh my gosh. Well, we know she was murdered at some point because that's what the title of the story is. The Murder of Rebecca Witt. Oh, how sad. Okay, that's the show for today. I hope you guys enjoyed. I will see you tomorrow for the salacious text messages. We're going to talk about that in detail tomorrow. The text messages between Lori and Chad. Have a great day, guys. I will see you tomorrow in Crafting Your Crime Daily. Bye.